Hey, what's up, guys? Scott here from the End of the Bench Show. Thank you for joining episode two. We have a great episode today, joined by Pat and our friend Kevin MacBride. We're going to break down the NFL draft, specifically the New York Jets and New York Giants. Me and Pat both being local guys. And Kevin is a transplant. Used to live in New York, now he lives in Iowa. So we're spreading across a lot of states. Before we get started into everything, you will see in the podcast link and on all of our social, there's a link to contribute to the podcast. Pat and I immensely appreciate anything you guys contribute. It'll help us grow. We'll get better equipment and things like that. The best caveat to it is something we're really proud of. We're going to donate a percentage of whatever we receive to a charity to help out with coronavirus efforts. Um, so anything you guys can give, we promise a percentage of it will go to that. And once we beat coronavirus, we're going to continue to do it, just maybe different charities to just to keep it going and make our world a better place. But to bring it on to a happier note, Pat, Kev, what's going on, guys?
Doing really well. Really
Doing
glad you
good.
guys asked me to be here.
Yeah, Kev, we're very appreciative of you taking the time,
Yes, we are.
all the way from Iowa. What do you got going on?
Yeah. Well, honestly, I was just talking about this with you a little bit ago, Scott. I love the NFL, always have, and I really wasn't a huge college football fan until I moved out to Iowa City, and that's when I was like,
Yeah,
all right, college football is going to be a thing that I'm going to like totally delve into, and that's kind of when my love for the draft came up. And so when you guys said, hey, I want to cover Jets and Giants, I was like, I'm all in it. And so I did a lot of my homework on some of these like day one and day two picks. So I'm
hmm
excited to talk about like some facts that I found out and some things that I think they both need.
yeah, that's great. I mean, we listened to you last year on the Landy Lodge. If you guys don't follow the
Hmm.
Landy Lodge, please subscribe to him on any platform. He does great work. Kevin did an amazing job running through. I think you did the whole first round last year, right? Pick by pick.
Yeah. I did 32 teams. Actually, I shouldn't say that. It wasn't all 32 teams, but I just was able to talk with Nick about, hey, this is what I think
God,
is going to
God bless
happen.
you.
I
God bless
hey,
you for having the patience for
I'm
that.
I'm a Rams fan, and the Rams have not been in the first round for a long time. So I even look at teams that I don't even love. So I love the draft that much.
Yeah, so I mean, we're really excited. We think you guys are really going to like it. Kev is very good at what he does. So we're just going to basically get right into it. We're going to start with the Giants, basically their whole first, second, and third round. The Giants pick first between the Giants and the Jets. So, Kev, who do you got them taking in the first round with the fourth overall pick?
Yeah, I think the Giants at number 4. A lot of rumors are about trading out. I think they'll stay, and I think they pick Isaiah Simmons. I'm an Iowa Hawkeye fan, and I'm hearing a lot of rumors about they
Mm-hmm.
love Tristan Wirfs. They want to build the offensive line. They like those hog molly type guys, but I was looking at something, recently, and it said one of the Giants' biggest needs was defense, and there's more than just one position on defense, and that's
Yeah.
literally Isaiah Simmons. He's by far, one of the best defensive prospects we got. He's the only college ball player recorded over 100 snaps at D end, linebacker, corner, and safety. And so, like, if you're thinking about plugging in someone for who the Giants lost, there's a few guys I can name that the Giants lost. Ogletree was one. He was an inside linebacker. They lost Marcus Golden. He what had I think 10 sacks a few years ago. So that's obviously
Mm-hmm.
stuff you can't just get back through one player. Sorry, that's losing more than one player like that. You need a guy who can play more than one position. You can get that in one player with Isaiah Simmons. So
Yeah.
another stat just to like prove how bad their defense was. They were the NFL worst negative 17 point differential. So they don't have a very good defense. They're bottom
No.
3 in points allowed per game,
Mm.
and they just need someone who can turn it around. I think Isaiah Simmons is that guy.
Yeah, I like that. I like that pick for the Giants. It's funny because the Giants and Jets, me and Pat were talking about, because we're not as big with college football, but it was easy
Hmm.
to prepare for this because they basically have the same exact needs
Yeah, exactly.
when you
It
think
Yeah,
about it.
I
Um,
100% agree with you. They really do.
It's
And
practically identical compared to what they need, the two of them.
right.
Kev, I like that pick. That would be a great pick. The defense, Giants definitely need to update that. I don't know if it really means much, but I've seen a lot of mock drafts and them looking to take an O-line with that first pick. And a couple that I've seen outside of Tristan Wirfs was Andrew Thomas out of Georgia.
Yeah.
He's high up on the O-line in terms of the prospects. There's a lot of teams in the first 10 picks that are looking for O-line. Jets have 11. We'll get to them. They also need O-line help. But there's at least, I think, 4 or 5 teams in the first 10 picks alone that need some offensive line help, the Giants being one of them. And at number 4, they got a good shot to get the absolute best in the draft. But if they don't go defense, I see them going O-line with Andrew Thomas.
Yeah. I could agree with that.
I agree too. I think the worst thing I've heard about Isaiah Simmons is that he is a master of so many things. He does so many things extremely well, but is a master of nothing, is what I've heard. But if you're good at a lot of things, you're gonna find the field and you're gonna make an impact, and that's what the Giants need on any side of the ball. I think it really just comes down to, do you want to hit the quarterback or do you want to protect your quarterback? And I think it's hard to pass up Isaiah Simmons. And I think with such a deep offensive line draft, the Giants can do damage on the offensive line later on too.
Yeah. I mean, obviously the Giants early, they've had a trend of going offense early. It's been Evan Ingram, Saquon Barkley, then Daniel Jones the last 3 years. So they could easily go offense early and build that way. But I think an argument to that would be, you might only find one Isaiah Simmons. You could find a lot of tackles that could slide into guard at any year in the draft.
Yeah.
But hey, Andrew Thomas would be that guy that I could see. I could see the Dolphins passing on a quarterback to take a guy like Andrew Thomas. He's that good.
Yeah, and I think another thing is you think David Gettleman probably on the hot seat as the GM. You want to make a pick that'll jump off the screen. So it's if you draft an offensive lineman, it's kind of tough. But if you draft a guy like Isaiah Simmons, the impact will be extremely visible in the first year, most likely. Maybe be a little easier for him to justify, keeping his job. But I mean, at number 4 in this draft, it's kind of hard to do something that would be a complete fuck up, in my opinion. But is there someone you think that maybe you've heard they may take that would just be a complete reach for them at that spot?
Well, I guess this will lead me into my next pick. I think I've heard Mekhi Becton at 4. I think that is such a reach. I think he's a super raw prospect and has the size. You just don't find guys that are built like a refrigerator. That's who he is, And so I would say at 4, he's a huge reach. But again, Gettleman loves these big, massive guys that can move. And if he likes them, he's going to like them. But I would say at 4, Becton's a reach.
Got it. So who you got for their next pick then? They're picking again the second round, right? Yep.
Yeah. So the Giants in the second round, pretty lucky that they get to be 4th. A lot of times these guys that should be first rounders fall into that top 5 of the second round, and that's where you get a steal.
For sure.
I know that we were just talking about the needs that the Giants and Jets have, very similar, but I think Giants draft a safety, Grant Delpit out of LSU. Wow. You look back on the last few years, there's been a ton of LSU safeties and corners that have been super productive in the league. And if you look at the Giants roster, I think they're starting free safeties a Julian Love, this guy they drafted a few years ago, and he's no great shakes. And so if you really want to improve that defense, you get yourself Grant Delpit in the top of the second round. Giants were bottom 5 in takeaways, both fumbles and interceptions. And so if you get a guy like Isaiah Simmons in the front and Grant Delpit in the back, have him just be a safety, play rangy football. The Dallas Cowboys have a great passing offense. Philly has a great passing offense. Just put a guy in the back and kind of make sure that they have to respect his ball skills. This guy should be a first rounder, but he fell because college playoff is really great, but sometimes the college playoff puts a lot of guys on showcase that aren't always doing so well, right?
Right.
So Delpit could have been a first rounder, but he's got some pretty poor tackling, even though he's got really good ball skills. And so I think he falls to the Giants right there.
Yeah, so I'm looking at a mock now, and I see him 31st to the 49ers. So it's definitely not out of the realm of possibility that he'll be there for the Giants in the second round. Um, I agree with you. There are a lot of good offenses in the NFC East. The Eagles, the Cowboys. I mean, the Redskins literally can't be worse than they were last year. So I mean, to take two defensive players with your first two picks, I mean, it's a good strategy. I like the ball hawking safety. I think that's definitely something that plays in the NFL still. So I think that'd be a good pick for the Giants. What do you got, Pat? You got anything?
I'm not, like we said, not too familiar with the Giants' overall needs and the current class, but I do know safety help is something that they did need, similar to well, Jets don't need necessarily safety help; they need the cornerback help, but they need that defensive backfield help.
Mm-hmm.
And that Grant Delpit pick sounds like it would be. I mean, look at the last safety come out of LSU. Jets have him, Jamal Adams. I mean, you never know what could happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, Jamal Adams went number 6. They were talking about Grant Delpit being a top 10 pick, around this time last year. And if this guy falls 30 or so spots, I think the Giants will say, yeah, why not get another good guy in defense?
Right. At some point, you have to look at the spot you're in. Like, well, if that guy falls to us, you almost have to take him. Otherwise, especially if you need him. I mean, the Giants need a safety, so it's not like they're just taking him to take him. Take him because he fell. I mean, if he fell,
Yeah.
he's high on your board. You got to take him no matter what, in my opinion.
Yeah, and another thing that also
strategy.
Go ahead, Pat. Sorry.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, the strategy's got to be to take not only what you need, but the best available player that you have.
That's exactly what I was about to say.
If he's there and you have a need at that spot, it may not be a primary need, but you see that he's there, pull the trigger, take him, because you never know what you're gonna get after that. You may just have slim pickings after that.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that. There's only, I would say, a certain few positions in the NFL that teams really seek to get their guy, right? Quarterback, you get your guy. If you want a pass rusher or a corner, those are valuable positions. Left tackle, you get your guy. But something like that, you just take the best player on the board, like you said, Pat.
Yeah, and I think especially, with this draft being totally virtual, and it seems like it's something these GMs and NFL teams are going to have a lot of struggle with for whatever reason. I mean, it blows my mind because my small company is able to work from home fully remotely and not have any problems, but these NFL billionaires can't figure it out. I think with that, the best player on their board is going to be what's taken more often than not. I don't think there are going to be a lot of reaches or anything like that, because I think I'm never in a draft room, but I would assume that they come from a lot of back and forth between colleagues in the room. And if they struggle with their communication during this virtual draft, I think you're going to see a lot of players just best available be taken, especially when you get out of the first round, because everyone in the first round probably knows who they're taking as long as they're there. But I feel like as you progress, round 2, round 3, round 4, and so on, you're just going to see a lot of best available be picked up by the teams.
Yeah, I agree.
And for whatever it's worth, Kevin, the mock draft I'm looking at right now, you definitely got the defensive area correct. It has AJ Terrell out of Clemson, the cornerback, to the Giants. But I personally think anyone on the end of the bench show is more qualified and is probably more accurate than this mock draft. So we're gonna go with Grant Delpit.
I also got a mock draft up myself on the ringer.com, and they got Terrell Lewis, edge rush out of Alabama. So again, it looks like there's some outside of Chase Young, there is still some edge rush prospects, and I mean Chase Young's going to be off the board number 2 from what it seems. So teams are going to have to look for that next best option, and looks like this mock draft's got the Giants taking Lewis at number 36.
Yeah, Lewis wouldn't be bad. Only a few things about him. His seasons were ended in 2017 and 2018 with injury, and so that kind of stinks. Teams don't always like seeing a guy with injuries. But again, right, if if you're playing on an Alabama, right? Sometimes you're surrounded by studs. You don't always look
Yeah.
like the stud when you're surrounded by studs. So he might
Yeah.
fall due to injuries. He might fall due to being second or third, fourth fiddle on a really good team. But yeah, edge rusher's a valuable position, just like I was saying earlier. So if
Yeah.
you got your guy, you get your guy.
Pat, you said that was the Ringer that you're
Yeah.
looking at? Kev, I
Yep.
don't know if you're familiar with the Ringer NFL Draft Guide.
Yeah,
So
man, that stuff
they
looks great on there.
dude,
Unbelievable. They
it
do a
is
great job.
amazing. It saved me and Pat for
Yeah,
this conversation, to be
It
completely
I
honest.
love
Yeah.
I love I love how you could put, what is it, like more dense, less dense about
Mhm.
all the information you're looking for. That is
Yeah,
like so creative. Shout out to those guys, man. That's
it's
really good stuff.
intense.
Absolutely.
They do one for the NBA too, which I dive into like as soon as it comes out. Um,
Nice.
but yeah, the NFL one is incredible. So let's keep moving on here to the Giants' next pick. Was it in round 3?
Yeah, Giants' next pick is pick 99 in round 3. So you guys might know the Giants traded away their third round pick to the Jets, which we're going to talk
Yes.
about here in a little bit. So
Mhm.
this number 99 picks a comp pick. Um, but you guys had asked if there was any sleepers or anyone that I thought this is my sleeper for the Giants.
All right.
I think on the offensive line, they might have gone early with offensive line, but I think their biggest need's at center. They don't really
Okay.
have a good center, and since they
That's
lost
fair. Yeah.
Weston Richburg, they drafted him in the second round a few years back, and so they lost him to San Fran, I think. And so they need a guy in the middle to be able to, protect Dan, protect Barkley.
Mhm.
My friend Kyle Vadney would argue that the center is the most valuable position on the offensive line, and I don't disagree with him. But me and him will talk about how a center is pretty important. I think they
Yeah.
draft Matt Hennessy out of Temple. He's a center. Some
Okay.
few things to know about Temple. It's a really, really interesting team network there. They give single digit practice jerseys to the guys that are captains and like toughest on the team. And so
Okay.
their center is a guy who had one of those single digit jerseys. So he's a tough dude. He's a team captain. The Giants really like guys like that. And I think what's pretty cool is that his brother's the long snapper for the Jets. So I think it's pretty awesome to have a center in New York.
I was gonna
Have
say
have, have two brothers.
I thought the last name sounded familiar. I mean, I know Hennessy is also a delicious drink, but I thought the last
Mm-hmm.
name sounded familiar.
Yeah,
That's
no,
that's a good pick. I like that. I like that mindset you're in right there. Um, and I have him in the third round on this mock draft too. So we're we're looking good. We're looking good so far.
yeah, I hope the Giants do draft offensive line. They absolutely need
Yeah.
it. I
Yep.
don't know if you guys know this. The Giants had a huge fumbling problem. They led the league in fumbles last year, and they're the
Yes.
only team in the league that had 15 plus picks and fumbles. Only
Ooh.
team in the league. So when you're talking about protecting your quarterback, you need to also protect your running back too, so he's not getting hit right up the middle or whatever. So
Right,
I think
but
I think a center's where they go.
and a lot of those fumbles
Good pick.
also did come from Daniel Jones. So a better offensive line could probably help in that. I mean, I'm not trying to be like mean or anything, but
Oh, you're
you
right.
know,
Well, it's
it
not mean when it's factual.
could definitely help. Well, I've told people before that I don't fully buy Daniel Jones, but that's a story for another episode. Um, because I don't know. I saw a rumor today or like a word from something that they may like try to trade down and like draft a quarterback, and I was loving it because it's so crazy, especially because Gettleman drafted Daniel Jones. But it was just crazy to be out there and like listen to sports radio and have all the Giant fans like flip out about it. It was pure comedy for me.
Yeah, you get a lot of
That's
that
bad.
smoke around this time.
Yeah, but like I always say when there's smoke, there's fire. So you never I never fully dismiss it. You know.
Good point.
Um,
Yep.
so that's basically that's round 1 through 3 for the Giants. Um, so what we got? They're gonna draft a safety, an offensive lineman, and another offensive lineman, or no, a
Uh,
linebacker.
yeah,
Last
yeah.
year.
Yeah.
Isaiah
There we
Simmons,
go.
linebacker. Grant Delpit, safety. Matt Hennessy, center.
All right. I mean, that's a solid. I would say that's a solid first 3 rounds. I don't think a
Mhm.
Giant fan should be upset about that. I think as long as they draft Isaiah Simmons, to be completely honest. A Giant fan will love it. If they go anything besides Isaiah Simmons or a top-tier offensive lineman in the first pick, it's probably going to be pretty safe.
Yeah.
Which when you pick at 4, that's what you want. You don't want to make headlines at 4. You want to do the right thing at 4.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
I know that from a Jet fan because we're usually up there. So,
Yep.
and we usually don't do the right thing. So I know the pain that the Giant fans will feel. But speaking of the Jets, let's go hop onto their bandwagon. They picked in the first round, number 11. So who do you see
Yeah.
there for them, Kev?
Yeah. So you asked earlier who would be a reach at number 4. I think with a lot of the things going on with Mekhi Becton's offseason, he falls out of the top 10.
Yep.
There are a lot of teams that need a left tackle. Something that I heard recently that might help Becton's cause is the Browns might be trading for Trent Williams from the Redskins. So they're right there. Their need for left tackle goes off the board, which could be just one more reason you got one sitting there.
Right.
There's a few things about Becton, right? He's really raw. Certain teams don't like that he sat out his team's bowl game, towards the end of the season. Some teams don't like seeing, oh, this guy quits on his team towards the end. He did that,
Yeah.
right? He's a real flash in the pan at the combine, and that's why a lot of people go ooh and ah. But I do think that the Jets need a left tackle so bad. They need something to fix their offense because it's really, really poor.
Right.
I was looking at some stats. Fewest rushing first downs in the NFL. They had the second fewest rushing yards, and they only had 6 touchdowns last year. You sign Le'Veon Bell to do his thing and let someone protect Darnold and have some kind of future. You had a ton. They went on a frenzy in free agency getting offensive linemen like George Fant, Alex Lewis, Connor McGovern, right? These are all guys that could start. But it doesn't mean you don't, build a strength you don't continue to build that strength. And I think they go Becton for the future.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the offensive linemen that they signed, they're depth pieces. They could start, they could not start.
Yeah,
I mean, they have almost no one on the offensive line anyway, like just people-wise, not even like good talent-wise, just literal people-wise. I saw Mekhi Becton a lot. He's definitely someone that I do expect them to take, but that's mainly because I assume the better offensive linemen are probably going to be off the board at that time. I would love for Tristan Wirfs to somehow fall.
Yep.
I would also love for Jedrick Wills or Andrew Thomas to be there. I was listening to someone on the radio today about Andrew Thomas. I think it was Mike Tannenbaum was on, and he was like, the guy just doesn't get beat off the snap. And I'm like, well, that sounds like the perfect guy to protect my franchise quarterback right there. The guy who doesn't get beat.
Man.
Yep. So, I mean, I would love for him to be there. I think Mekhi Becton is much more reasonable. I think it really just comes down to, do you want to protect Sam or do you want to give Sam a weapon with this first pick? And I think protecting Sam is more important because if you don't protect him, he can't use the weapons that you get him. So I definitely see them going offensive tackle first as well.
Yeah. I agree. Protect Sam. They were bottom 5 in sacks allowed. They need to be able to keep Sam upright and have him do something with the football.
Yeah, they were dreadful. Me and Pat know we got drunk every Sunday watching them at the bar.
Oh yeah.
So
just keep building off of that. The way I see it is that this draft is going to be huge for Joe Douglas because it's going to be the draft that is going to be detrimental to Darnold's development. You got to not only get him the protection he needs. I mean, they did that through free agency, some big signings with Fant, McGovern, Lewis. But again, they still need that. They need to add someone to that line. Becton, if he falls and he's there, they'll take him. If Wirfs is there, Wills, whoever is there in terms of offensive line, if he's there, take him. But they also do have to give him the weapons, especially since he is or did lose one of his biggest weapons last couple of years with Robbie Anderson. They signed Rashad Perriman, which is good. Jamison Crowder was his number 1 receiver last year. I think I looked it up. He had about 122 targets last year. I know Darnold missed a few games, several weeks with the
Yes.
mono. But
Yeah.
Crowder was the big target last year. They had Perriman coming in. They will have Ryan Griffin at tight end, and a couple of mock drafts that I've seen. If they're not going offensive line, they're going wide receiver. And I'm
Absolutely.
seeing C.D. Lamb at Oklahoma at number 11 for them. I think that would be a great pick. Gives you that threat on the outside that you need. You line up Perriman, Crowder on the inside, put C.D. Lamb on the outside. It gives Darnold the weapons, not to mention you still have Bell, who can not only run, but he can take it out of the backfield as well, screen pass and short, slants and stuff.
Yeah.
It's just going to come down to a matter of who's available. There's 3 or 4, maybe 5 teams roughly before the Jets come up that need that offensive line help. Browns being one of them at 10. If they decide to go with that Trent Williams trade with the Redskins, maybe they don't go that way. And, whoever is on the board in terms of the offensive line, take them there. But it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see. I think ultimately they will go offensive line, but I wouldn't be surprised if they go receiver.
Yeah, and I listened to a Joe Douglas interview today. He was asked, what positions do you think are, the deepest in the draft? And I like to think I could read people a lot better than I can. So the first position he said was a wide receiver. So I immediately assumed that he's not going to pick a wide receiver, number 11, because he believes that it's so deep he can get a good one later on in the draft. And that is Psychology 101 with Scott. That's just how I look at it. I think the easiest pick is an offensive tackle. Hopefully, someone better than Mekhi Becton is there, but I'm thinking it's probably going to be Mekhi Becton in that slot. But one thing that could change it, we were going to talk about this later. We can talk about it now. Was there seems to be this rumor that and belief that maybe Jamal Adams is traded at draft day. And I mean, depending on on what pick you get for them, I guess it really does change what the Jets would do at 11. I think
it's going to change their entire complexion if it is indeed happening. But Joe Douglas has been adamant. Again, this could go back to the psychology and just trying to get a better package for him. But he's been adamant that Adams is his guy. He doesn't want him going anywhere. He wants to keep him here long term. But I think I love Jamal Adams. He's probably my favorite player in the Jets right now. I think the guy is – I'm not going to say he's like a second coming of like a Troy Polamalu, but he's got the tools, the athleticism, the talent to be one of the top safeties in the league for years to come, if he's not already. And it's really tough to say let's trade him for a pick that we may not know that will necessarily work out. But I think if Joe Douglas gets the right package for him, we could see some fireworks on Thursday with Jamal Adams.
Yeah, and I also just get nervous just watching sports as long as we have. It seems like whenever a GM is like, nah, that's my guy, nah, I'm going to lock him up. It's like next day you get an alert that he's traded or cut. So I get really nervous when I hear Joe Douglas say that. I do think he's going to stay, but I mean, if he's taking calls, you never know.
I personally, right? You guys are both Jets fans. I'm gonna ease your tensions here. I personally don't think they ship him. I think he stays, and I have a reason why I think that. I think NFL teams are very smart, and when they know a guy has value on the block, they put a phone and call out. They talk with other teams. Teams, if they were doing that, they would prepare for, hey, we're gonna let this guy go. We need to have someone in their place. Yeah. Something that I do throughout the draft process, and that's kind of how I get some of these guys, right? The Ringer has a great list of prospects. One of the ways I get my guys is I look at what teams met with prospects by position. And something that I found out this offseason, the Jets didn't meet with a single safety at Pro Bowls, at the Senior Bowl, at the Combine. They didn't meet with a single safety. They met with plenty of corners, right? They need to replace what Trumaine Johnson left, but I don't think you get rid of Jamal Adams when you haven't as a franchise prepared to bring in someone to replace him. So I would say Jamal Adams is your guy. He stays, and they don't take a safety to replace those guys. Well, it was Marcus May and Jamal Adams. They drafted 1 and
Yeah.
2 a few years back. Yeah, that's
Mm-hmm.
I think they would trade away May before they trade away Adams. That should be their
Yeah.
guys.
Well, you
Well, I feel like
definitely
May hasn't been on the field enough to get
Yeah.
enough value. So
100%.
that's the thing with that, though.
but you definitely eased my tensions, Kev. And then you had to bring up Tremaine Johnson, and that just puts me in a bad mood again. But
Hey, he played
You
for the
know.
Rams, man. I've seen it. Right?
Yeah, I know.
We franchise tagged him.
yeah, he's actually I met a kid in California, and Tremaine Johnson's actually his cousin. So
No
my
way.
friend was like, me and my friend were really excited when he became a Jet, and that didn't last very long. So I'm sure he's a great guy, but he was a terrible fucking cornerback for the Jets.
Yeah.
All right, so we don't have a pick in round 2. That's still part of the move to get Sam Darnold, right?
The Jets
No,
do
I
have a
think-
pick in round 2. The
Yeah.
Jets have
Really?
pick 48.
I
Yep.
missed it. Never mind.
That's all good. Yeah, the Jets have pick 48, so a nice top 50 pick. You
Yep.
guys had talked about it a little earlier with this wide receiver depth class. I agree. I think in this order, the Jets' needs are offensive line, wide receiver, edge, and corner.
Yep.
And so I don't particularly go in that order, but the next pick I have is wide receiver. I'm picking Michael Pittman at a USC. This is a
Nice.
guy who's 6'4". He would be a wide receiver 1 in the first round if this class wasn't so deep.
Okay.
The Jets, they don't mind picking guys from the Pac-12. Michael Pittman led the Pac-12 in receptions and receiving yards. I think he had 101 receptions. The guys from USC, he's cut from the same cloth as Sam Darnold, so might as well give him a guy
Yeah.
to say, hey, we have Perriman that'll take the top off. We have other guys that you can hit underneath. Here's our ex wide receiver that we can just put out on the boundary every play, and hopefully Sam and him grow a nice rapport.
Yeah, did he play with Sam at USC?
I
Because
don't-
if he's a senior, and
He's
this
a
is
senior.
Darnold's third year.
I got a couple of his stats up now. He was a senior. Let's see, last year he had 11 touchdowns, 12.6 yards per reception, and he had 17 receptions of 20-plus yards. So he does have that little bit of
That's chunk plays.
Yeah.
He's got that, that deep threat. Not, maybe not deep, but, he's got that, that mid-level speed to get into the backfield.
I would say a big loss that a lot of people aren't talking about with the Jets is losing Robbie Anderson to the Panthers. That was a guy that you guys would have that has that middle chunk ability to take some big chunky plays, and you don't have that anymore. Denzel Perriman is okay. Brashad Perriman is okay. Sorry about that. He's okay, but he's not consistent enough. He's jumped around. I think if you draft a Pittman, you can have what you lose with Anderson, which is that middle of the field threat.
Yeah. And I just looked it up. Pittman did play with Sam Darnold, I guess, his freshman year. And
Nice.
He was quoted on a possible reunion saying, Sammy D was like one of the best quarterbacks I've ever played with. He's just a straight gamer. He's a young quarterback that has 10 to 15 years left. It would be great to have that run with him again. So
what a good quote. I did not see that. That is perfect.
That's a great quote. Yeah,
It's
I mean, in terms of like, we were talking
man.
about, the Jets do definitely need that wide receiver help. Their depth chart right now is showing Perriman, Crowder, and Anunwa, who I also love but can't stay on the field. So you kind of need you need that threat. You need that threat on the outside. And Pittman seems like he would be a great fit.
Yeah. There were some other guys that I thought about. Injuries are a great thing to bring up. Another guy that I thought might fall to the top 50, Brandon, coached by Herds out in Arizona State, but I don't know. I think Pittman can be reliable, big, healthy. Yeah. That's something that you need. Availability is one of the best abilities.
Right. And Kev, you broke up a little bit. So who was the guy at Arizona State?
Oh, sorry, Brandon Ayuk.
Yeah, got it. Just wanted so the listeners got it.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, I said, coached up by Herm Edwards. I think he could be a really good, productive receiver.
He's already got Jet ties then if he was coached by Herm Edwards. So, he's got that going for him. I like Michael Pittman, though, because I'm on his Ringer page, and its main selling point is automatic hands. And
there we go.
I'm sold right there. Great pick. Pick him first overall if you want. That's fine with me. uh, but anyway, so let's go to round 3. The Jets have 2 picks in round 3, 68 and 79. Let's start with 68. Who you got there?
Yeah, 68. So earlier we were talking about how teams like certain things. Jets love the SEC, and so when they can find a guy who's kind of under the radar on the SEC that they like, they're gonna try and get him. I think the guy they're gonna take is Jonathan Grenard, edge
I love
defender
it.
out of Florida.
I
The
love it.
guy's gritty. The guy's tough. He played the year with a club on his hand because he broke his wrist. He's
Yeah.
one of those players. He led. For a guy that you never heard of, he led the SECs in tackle for loss and sacks with 9.5. So,
Yeah.
You talked about Andrew Thomas earlier, how he could go so high. Some of the reasons why a lot of executives like these guys is because they're coming out of the SEC, one of the best,
Right.
one of the best, college football, divisions. So when guys in the SEC perform, the NFL sees that and they're like, oh, this guy's going to translate well. So I think for a guy that some people might not have heard of, Jets take him early in the 3rd round. This is actually the pick they traded for Leonard Williams. So,
Perfect.
instead of getting a guy
Beautiful.
top 5 in the 1st round, paying him
Yeah.
a lot of money, you get a guy in the 3rd round who could be ultra productive in the SEC just as well.
Yeah, I like that pick. When I do watch college football, I watch Florida. So I was very familiar with Jonathan Grenard. I think it's a
Good.
great pick for the Jets. It may be a little high, but I'm okay with it because if you need it and you believe in him, it's the 3rd round. It's not the 1st round, so I'm willing to take that chance. And I mean, he can definitely get to the quarterback. He's a hell of a player, like you said, playing with a one hand, and he still did damage. I mean, he's going to have another hand next year, so he's going to do, like you would assume. So I mean, I love that pick for the Jets. I like the fact that they're at least trying with a defensive end because they seem to just want to draft defensive tackles and turn them into ends. So I mean, if they could at least just show me that little effort of drafting a defensive end, I'm all on it, all for it.
Yeah. So I'm taking a look at a couple other mock drafts here because me personally, I'm not too familiar with a lot of the underlying underappreciated prospects when it comes to college football. So I do revert to a lot of mock drafts, and I'm looking at 2 different mock drafts right now. One CBS.com, they have Jets taken at 68 Julian Okwara, edge rush out of Notre Dame, 6'4", 252. He did have a leg injury, so his 2019 season was cut short, but they think that he would be a big spot, big fill for them with the edge rush. And then another one that I'm looking at has them taking, one sec. Of course, my computer's low, so Bradley Ane from Utah, another edge rush. So it looks like, that round 3, round 2. Round 3.
Round 3.
They are going to be looking to fill that rush need.
Yeah, man, I agree with that. I think, just like I said earlier, if you find your guy at a valuable position, quarterback, corner, edge, you take that guy even if you think it's a little early, because teams won't think that's a reach if it's their guy.
Right.
Hey, I love the other 2 picks that you talked about. Earlier mentioned how I look at the draft prospect meetings. The Jets met with Anai, the Jets met with Okwara, and so I had those guys slotted in here, but I ended up going with Grenard. That was the guy I wanted, and I thought he could fit there. If you were to take those 3 prospects, and kind of line them up side by side, the thing that stands out to me is their divisions. Anai's in the Pac-12 with Utah, Okwara's, Notre Dame is a bunch of conference because they're independent,
but they'll, that's just how Notre Dame is. They'll play.
Yeah. I think when teams come to push to shove, they're going to pick the guy from the SEC over other conferences. Sometimes, depending on the team.
No, I agree with that. There.
No,
but no,
Kev,
I had Anai and Okwara.
Do you think that Jonathan Grenard will be there for the Jets in their 2nd, 3rd round pick, or do you think if they want him, they're going to have to go at him at pick number 68?
Yeah, he could easily fall to 79.
Hmm.
And you know what? If you're at that situation where you say, "Hey, I like these three edges at 68. Let's see who we can get at 79." Then maybe
Yeah,
that's the risk. That's the risk you take on draft day.
yeah,
Yeah, I think Anai would be great. He wrecked the Senior Bowl. He had 2 sacks and was absolutely eating up the competition. Quara's brother played for the Giants, so maybe there's some New York ties there. Don't know, but
yeah.
I like Grenard.
Okay, no, I mean, me too. Me too, definitely for
at
sure.
at 68. I think
Hmm.
he could definitely go later.
Yeah. So if you like him at 68, you love him at 79. But who do you like at 79 for the Jets and their final pick of the third round?
Yeah, the final pick of the third round, pick 79. I think the Jets are going to go Damon Arnett, who's a corner out of Ohio State.
Love it.
If
I like
if
it.
you look, if the same way I talked about, secondary guys coming out of LSU with the Giants,
Yeah,
Ohio State, it might be a little patchy with some of the guys coming out of Ohio State, but overall, guys are pretty good, and they seem to have good careers in the NFL. Um, the reason why I say this guy Arnett falls,
yeah,
although he was part of one of the best secondaries in the nation in Ohio State. Some teams think, okay, well, if Ohio State's been producing the best pass rushers year in and year out, that's going to inherently affect the secondary. So of course they're going to play
yeah,
better, And so it's kind of like those numbers are a little fluffy and maybe
Mhm.
that, but I don't know if I'm going to buy that argument. I'm going to say that Arnett was a cornerback 2, cornerback 3 slotted type guy on a really elite defense. And so when you can
yeah,
take a guy like Okuda and say, all right,
Yep.
you go over there and we're going to play 10-man football over here. I think Arnett could be a corner on the boundary, maybe in the nickel. Um,
yeah.
but yeah, I think I read somewhere he might fall because of some maturity issues. Some teams pass
Great.
up on that, but you know what? If you have a corner, you have a corner. It's a
Yeah.
valuable position in the NFL.
Yeah, and I get the pass rush comment, with Ohio State, but I look at it, they're one of the best defenses in the country, and the guy found his way on the field. So,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was still part of that defense. If he sucked, he wouldn't have been on the field anyway,
100% right.
regardless of their pass rush. So they had to believe in him because I mean, your pass rush can get stopped. I mean, Chase Young did get stopped eventually, and
Yeah.
they still played good on defense. So I like the pick. I definitely believe in Arnett. It worries me, the maturity issues coming into the New York area, but um, I mean, at some point, it's got to be worth the risk. I think at pick number 79, it is worth the risk for them.
Yeah, I think cornerback is definitely something that they do need to address through this draft. Their depth chart right now is showing, Pierre Desir, Arthur Mallet,
Mm-hmm.
Blessed Austin. I mean, you need some help there.
Yeah,
Trumaine Johnson clearly was not the answer. So fuck him, and let's
that's right,
see what
Pat.
they can do. Yeah, no, fuck Trumaine Johnson.
We are officially
I could
a
agree.
Tremaine Johnson
Yeah,
hating podcast. It's our
yeah,
second episode, and we have our very first enemy. I'm very proud of us. It's a tremendous milestone.
yeah. But let's see what they do. I'd like to see a cornerback in that third round. I'd really like to see that.
Yeah, and the Jets could address it earlier. The Jets could take
Yeah,
a corner at number 11 if they love
Yeah,
if they love a guy. Like I said, it's a valuable position. Left tackle, corner, edge. If you find your guy, you find your guy. But I I put a corner there because I think they need some help in the secondary. But
yeah.
overall, I wouldn't say that the Jets defense isn't too bad. I was looking at some stats. The Jets are the only team in the NFL that has more than one pick six, fumble recovery, and safety. So
Wasn't
they're
that
doing it
all?
across.
Wasn't that all Jamal Adams?
Possibly.
I
That's why you don't
I,
trade that guy away.
I know the
no.
fumble to the touchdown was when he stripped it from Daniel Jones, I believe, and I know he had a pick six. So it's definitely likely that he got the safety too.
Yeah, no, I'm.
But
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't think you trade those guys away. Those are difference makers right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was gonna ask you because you teased something just now that maybe they take corner at 11, and I watched Florida a few times, and C.J. Henderson jumped off my screen every
Mm.
time.
Yeah.
If he somehow falls to 11, I don't think he's gonna last that long. But if he somehow falls to 11, is it? I mean, that's a real conversation the Jets have to have between elite offensive tackle, C.J. Henderson, and an elite wide receiving prospect. That's a hell of a problem to have at number 11.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's kind of goes back to some of that mentality stuff that I was talking about.
Yeah,
In the draft, you play the draft. If there's a ton of receivers that are deep, you get one later. You get your guy that you like early. Whether you live or die by him, you get your guy. Teams fall on their sword for a ton of players year in and year out. And you're
yeah,
like, oh, why was this wide receiver drafted 11th? He's so good in the NFL now, right?
yeah,
It's weird how that stuff works out. So, your example, right? A wide receiver, a corner, or a left tackle, one of those positions is a little bit more, dispensable than the other. And so
yeah.
you might wait later in a later round to take a corner, but wait in a later round to take a wide receiver. If you like a corner or tackle, you go get them.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I mean, if that's what the Jets do with their first 4 picks, I'll definitely be happy.
Same
Definitely,
here.
they definitely hit areas of need. And I mean, and they got good prospects, so I'll be
I
happy with
do
that.
wonder. Sorry, Scott. I'm just saying.
No, go
I
ahead.
do wonder with the signings of McGovern, Lewis, Fant,
Mm-hmm.
if that's going to
Yeah.
affect their pick at 11 at all. They think they may have addressed the line a little bit more. Do they really want to take their a new young lineman at 11, or do they maybe want to roll the dice and try and grab one of these receivers or one of these elite cornerbacks? So it's going to be interesting when we think about it now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. I think they still have to draft someone. I
It's a
mean,
need. There's no doubt about they need help on that line. There's no question about it.
yeah,
I personally, they may not have addressed it enough through free agency. I still would like to see them take an offensive lineman at some point in these first 3 rounds. Um,
yeah,
from what we're seeing, it looks like it is going to be at 11, but you never know what could happen.
yeah. I find it hard to believe that Joe Douglas at number 11 won't go with his bread and butter and pick an offensive tackle. And that's all that's all I'm banking on is
Mm.
Joe Douglas doing the right thing and staying true to his roots. But I mean, we'll see. That's why they do the draft on Thursday instead of just
Mm-hmm.
listening to us. So we'll see what happens. Uh, there has been quite a bit of news around the NFL. I mean, today Rob Gronkowski was traded to the Buccaneers.
Yeah.
So the Buccaneers got another offensive talent, assuming Gronk stays healthy and comes back in one piece. Um, Kev, I mean, you're a Rams fan, and I actually wanted to ask you what the hell happened with Todd Gurley.
Yeah. You know,
I'm
I
sorry, but I
I
have to ask
I
you.
love I love Todd Gurley. I have a Todd Gurley jersey. He's great.
Hmm.
He's a stud. But I would like to think that the Rams front office and their GM Les Snead know what they're doing,
Yeah,
and that him when they drafted him in the top 10, they knew, all right, we're going to get 5 to possibly 5 good years out of this guy. And I think they paid him the contract that he deserved, even though
yeah.
he was, how do I put it?
I mean, he may have
He
deserved it. It may not have been good business, but he may have deserved it.
he was paid for what he did his rookie
Yes.
and third
Hmm.
year with
Yes.
a lot of money. And I think the Rams knew when they held him out of the playoffs and they held him out of the Super Bowl that he had something going on.
Yeah.
It's tough as a fan to see that, and I don't know. The NFL is obviously dispensing running backs, and it's hard to see.
Yeah.
And it sucks
For
more when your
sure.
team is the one letting their guy go.
For sure. For sure. It was just because he has such a huge contract, it was like astounding to me that he was moved. I think it's almost like a win-win for Atlanta. I mean, if he could be anywhere close to what he was his first few years in the league, I mean, they added a tremendous weapon for Matt Ryan in that offense. Um, but another draft question I had for you is, Joe Burrow is obviously going to go number 1 to the
Yeah.
Bengals, whether he wants to go to the Bengals or not. I was looking at the Ringers draft guide, and it was like, what could cause Joe Burrow to fall, and it said he's not going to fall. So who do you see as the second quarterback coming off? Because there's a lot of, is it Herbert? Is it Tua? I think
That's a
it's
great
mainly
question.
between them. Um, who do you see, and maybe like where do you see that second quarterback going? I mean, like in the draft.
Yeah, I can't predict trades. It's so difficult to predict
Mhm.
trades. I
Of course, of course.
I would love if the draft just stayed the way it was and everyone just waited their turn, but that's not the way
Yeah,
business works. I I did say this earlier. I don't know if the Dolphins go quarterback right away. I
yeah.
do think the second quarterback to come off the board is going to be Tua. I think Tua goes to the Chargers.
Got it. Yep, that's what happens on the mock that I'm looking at too.
Yeah.
Although it has Miami taking Herbert right before the Chargers taking Tua, so that would be
I I I said this earlier. I wouldn't be surprised if the Dolphins take a guy like Andrew Thomas at 5 if he's there.
yeah,
If the Giants don't take Andrew Thomas, then the Dolphins could take an Andrew Thomas. But if if you were to look at the draft order, and again, I don't love trading, right? Is there
yeah.
any team between the two Dolphins picks that need a quarterback? Herbert
So
could
I'm taking a look at
Her,
the
Herbert
draft right now.
Herbert could fall after 5 and fall right to them at 19 because there's really not many teams that need a quarterback there. Unless someone's trying to trade up to get someone like Herbert, there's no reason the Dolphins can't say, all right, we're going to take the best player available, a left tackle to protect our quarterback, and then they take a
Yeah.
quarterback. But again, like I said, these positions, people find the guy they want and they get him. And so if a team doesn't draft a quarterback at 5 and then they draft him at 19, every headline's going to read, why didn't they take their guy first? They're not sold on Justin Herbert. They didn't take him at 5, right? That'll be all
Right.
the headlines. And it's tough, but I think when you're trying to build a football team, you got to build around. You can't just build with one guy.
Yeah, I don't know.
So
I mean,
Kev,
I
let
look
me
at. Go ahead, Pat. Go ahead.
sorry, Scott.
No,
Kev, I
go
just
ahead.
want to ask you a question since we're on the Tua subject. Do you think that his injury is going to affect his draft status at all? Like, do you think maybe it's going to be a little wary taking him as early as you might think he could go?
Yeah, I definitely do. I definitely think it's a huge risk this offseason more than ever, right?
Mhm.
Every team likes
Yeah.
to get their hands on a guy and say, "Hey, come to our facility and work with our doctors."
Yeah,
But you
because
can't do that.
it seems to me with the Dolphins, they can't mess this one up. Like they need that quarterback. They traded for what was it, Josh Rosen, and they're already over him. So it's like they need this draft. They need to get a quarterback in this draft, and they need to see him as the future. So I'm wondering if they are going to roll the dice. I mean, if Tua is the best available at that time, take him. Or I'm wondering if maybe they skip over and then they go Herbert.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we could play a little bit of Scott's psychology 101. If everyone's been hearing tanking for Tua, maybe Chris Greer goes opposite and doesn't tank for Tua.
It's
Who
true.
knows?
It's
Who
true.
knows?
Everyone wants to stand out, man. That's what I'm trying to get at. But I mean, I think Pat, like to what you're saying, and Kev to what you're saying. I mean, I look at number 9, Jacksonville. Like, I'm not completely sold on anyone they have for quarterback. So like, if Herbert or Tua drops
No
there,
Minshew mania?
no, I don't believe in Gardner
Come
Minshew.
on.
I had him on my fantasy football team, and he had one good week, and then he let me down, and I missed the playoffs by like a game, and I obviously blamed it on Gardner Minshew and not my not my lack of a tight end or good receivers or anything. It was all Gardner Minshew's fault, obviously.
Yes, that
Um,
QB too.
but yeah, I mean, all kidding aside, like I know they just drafted him, but they didn't waste a very high pick on him, to what I remember. If you
Mhm.
see a guy like Tua there at 9, I think if you're somewhat comfortable with his medical, like maybe you take that chance on him. Maybe you take a chance on Herbert. That's just otherwise. I agree with you, Kev, that it's probably that whoever, if a quarterback should be there for Miami at 18, also, unless there's a trade, which obviously the whole thing
We
goes
can't
out the
predict.
window. Yeah,
Yeah. I like I said, if guys like their guy, they'll trade whatever they want to go get him. But I
yeah,
can't predict that stuff. I don't have that pay grade.
Yeah.
yeah. Me neither. But yeah, I mean the thing that scares me the most is when I hear, maybe New England will move up in the first round. Just because I'd like 1 year where they're not like amazing. Personally, as a Jet
It would
fan,
be nice.
yeah, I think I've
I'd
I've lived
appreciate
through
that.
enough. Um, but yeah, I mean that's really all like the draft stuff I had. Pat, I don't know if you have anything else you wanna ask, or
No.
Kev, if you had something else in mind to say about it.
No, I'm glad I got a chance to talk about these two teams. I
Yes.
honestly, man, I could talk about every single team if I wanted to. Like if I had the time, I would love
Well,
to.
let's just. I'm not sure of the Rams picks in this draft personally, but I'm sure, of course, you know. Who are you
Hmm.
thinking? What are your team needs, and who are you liking for the Rams?
Oh gosh, good
He only
question, man.
prepared the Jets and Giants, Pat. He's not ready for the Rams.
But I mean, he's got some fandom that he could at least off the top of his head a little
No,
bit.
you're 100% right, man. I would say off the top of my head, I think I think offensive line is definitely a big need. Andrew
Hmm.
Whitworth, the dude should be a Hall of Famer in my opinion. The guy's awesome, but you can't play left tackle at a high level in the NFL around 40 years old. Like it's
Yeah.
it's just tough. So I think the Rams need to think about getting a left tackle. They lost a linebacker to Oakland, Corey Littleton, who was amazing in coverage. He was one of the
Yeah.
best coverage linebackers, and so they need a guy that can cover. But you know, linebackers tough. Linebackers don't usually go super early in the draft.
Mhm.
Unless they're Isaiah Simmons.
Yeah.
But no, I think the Rams probably focus on offensive tackle and linebackers. Getting to the pass rushers also a need.
Yeah.
Everyone needs that too.
Yeah. I like that for the Rams too. Um, so I think we have time. Pat had a fun kind of topic that he wanted to hit on
Yeah.
this. Um, you know, I mean, aside from the draft, there's really no sports going on, so we're trying to have some fun on these. So, Pat, why don't you tell everyone what you want to talk about today,
I mean,
and we
it's
could spend like 5, 10 minutes on it.
yeah, all right, it's okay. But I just like to. I've seen this a lot, and we're just having fun here. So I'm thinking with all the great fictional quarterbacks that we've seen in film and television, uh, in a one-game playoff, it doesn't have to be necessarily a Super Bowl or anything like just a one-game playoff. What fictional quarterback are you taking to lead your team to victory?
Yeah. I thought about this for a little bit. Scott had thrown this out to me.
Yeah, I
I'm
warned
gonna
them.
go. I'm gonna go with Sunshine from Remember the Titans.
There we
All
go.
right.
Perfect. Kev, last episode, I don't know if you listened, we did our top 5 favorite sport movies, and Remember the Titans
Okay.
was number 1 on my list. And me and Pat said
Great
that
movie.
if Trevor Lawrence is looking for an acting career after his football, he could
Yes.
reenact Remember the Titans as Sunshine, and Pat and I will be his agents. We'll take a 10% fee of anything he makes.
Yes.
And that's it. So it's better than the 100% fee the NCAA takes off him. So
Yeah.
you know,
Perfect.
I like that pick though. I like Sunshine. Pat, who you got, or you want me to go?
No, I mean I thought about this a little bit, but yeah, every time I look back at it, the guy I'm taking is Shane Falco from the replacement.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
What do you,
mean, you
what is
forget
he
about that
from?
96. Forget about that 96 Sugar Bowl game. All right,
Hmm.
he did work in those final 4 games. It was a 3-1 record, and he led his team at halftime against a Dallas team that all crossed the picket line and sent the Washington Sentinels first time back to the playoffs in I don't remember how many years. Shane
Yes.
Falco did that. He is a leader on that team, and he is the guy I want leading me out of the tunnel in a one-game playoff.
And for those who don't know, Shane Falco was the quarterback in the Replacements.
Yes.
Good movie. Good movie. Would that have cracked your top 5 football movies, Pat, that we kind of talked about last week? Or
I think that might just be outside at 6. I have
mm,
an idea for my top 5, but I think Replacements is maybe number 6. It's fighting for a top spot, but
so
it
the
might just be out.
so the quarterback you pick to lead your team isn't even in your top 5 movies.
Well, I'm not just looking at the team. I'm looking at the quality of the film in general.
Okay.
And the
Yeah.
films that I have in
Fair.
front of that, are a bit of a better quality than just the replacements.
Fair.
Got it. Got it. So Pat, when you told me this, I didn't know we were limited to TV and movies, so I'm not gonna listen to that. And
Any
I'm gonna go
fictional quarterback.
straight off my backyard baseball binge that I just finished, and I'm gonna go Pablo Sanchez. For
Yes.
sure is my
So good.
quarterback that I'm picking to lead me to the promised land. I mean, his nickname
Greatest
is this
fictional athlete
exactly,
at
and
all and altogether.
his nickname is the secret weapon, so obviously nothing can go wrong. He's so adorable. No one will want to tackle him anyway. Um, so yeah, Pablo Sanchez for sure. And I will win whatever trophy is in front of me as long as he is my quarterback. I have zero
He'll be
doubt.
your Russell Wilson.
There you go.
He'll be my everything. He'll be throwing balls to himself and catching them. It'll be great. We'll reenact the Philly special too. So that's really all we got.
Beautiful.
Kev, we very much appreciate the time you gave us today. Is there anything you want to say or plug, or feel free. The floor is yours right now.
Yeah, I mean, with 2 minutes left, I would challenge everyone to just go do a mock draft before the draft comes up on Thursday. I know I'm
Yes.
finishing up my little tweaks about who I think will go, but it's just really fun. If you're a NFL fan, if you're a fan of a guy making his dreams come true on live television, it's pretty cool, pretty
Yeah.
emotional to see. So I love the draft. I love the NFL. I love college football, and so I love making these. So my shtick would be go ahead and throw some guys together, even if you don't think they're going to be right. Just put some names on a board and see if you get any right. It's
That's
fun.
good. That's good advice. I may actually do that. I'm gonna write down like a little
Yeah, I think I'm
Excel.
gonna try that myself.
I'm not gonna share it with anyone unless I'm right. Obviously after the draft, I'm gonna change it to be the actual draft and be like, oh look, I got all this right. I'm gonna put that on the gram, give us some publicity.
There you go.
But no, anyway, Kev, we really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you.
We appreciate all you guys for listening, watching. The Instagram link and Twitter link is in the bio and the podcast description. Instagram is at @the_end of the bench. Twitter is at the EOTB. And once again, guys, you will see the support link for the podcast in the description as well. And a percentage of all contributions every month will go to a charity to help fight coronavirus efforts. And then once we beat coronavirus, we'll continue to do it just with different charities every month, just to try to give back. So your money will obviously help us become better. We'll get better equipment, grow as a show, but we'll also be doing a lot of good with it. So as always, we appreciate you taking time out to watch and listen. And Kev, Pat, thank you very much for hopping on here.
Yeah, thank you. End of the bench.
And thank you, Kevin.
All right. See you later, guys.